Hey guys, what is up and welcome to a new League of Legends video. First off, thank you all for wishing me a happy birthday yesterday, and also thank you for being on my stream. And if you couldn't make it, then I still love you. But on to the topic of the video. So let us talk about Ekko. I mean, there's gonna be more videos I will make about this champion, for instance, how to play him and a lot of tips and tricks that I have for Ekko. But before I do that, I feel like I should first make a video talking about somewhat of the opposite subject. How to beat Ekko. Now I see a lot of people complaining about Ekko, saying that he is just flat out too strong. So the point of this video is to give you general tips when facing an Ekko and also let you know on what champions I think you should be playing against him and what champions you shouldn't. I also chatted a bit with Björsen on Twitter and he gave me his thoughts on Ekko and the champions that he thinks are really strong against him and also what you should watch out for. First thing I want to say is that I don't think Ekko is overpowered, but I don't think he's balanced either. I think he's strong and might deserve a bit of nerfs. I think the reason people are seeing him as being so overpowered is one, because he's a new champion and people really don't understand how to play against him yet, since his kit is very different than anything we have seen yet. And on top of that, he is an assassin champion to make matters even worse. So not only do people not know how to play against this new champion, but this new champion is an assassin who's gonna be snowballing off of any slight lead. You have to remember that the whole purpose of assassins existing is to quite literally take a lead, get stronger, do a lot of damage to your team and hard carry a game. Or on the flip side, if they don't get the lead, they should be a little useless, which is actually where I think Ekko shines, because even if he's not super ahead, I still feel like he's quite good. And that's probably because he has a lot of great slow from his Q ability and he has a beautiful stun from his W. But regardless, let's first go into the topic of general tips when facing an Ekko. So the first thing is the fact that Ekko heavily relies on his Q ability, especially during the laning phase. And it's really important to try and not get hit by the Q whatsoever, let alone both times. The reason it's so important is because Ekko in the laning phase doesn't really have any other poke except for his Q, so not only is that his main source of damage, but if he gets especially 2 stacks from his Q on you from his passive, all he has to do is use his E on you, auto attack you, proc the passive, do a pretty good amount of damage, he gets the move speed buff from it, and he can just simply run away and then do it all again 10 seconds later. Another huge thing and probably the most important thing when facing an Ekko is that you have to pay special attention to him, because he has a lot of tricks up his sleeve where he'll throw his W and then out of nowhere you'll get stunned, he'll get a shield, or when you're not paying attention he'll press R, go back to his ultimate's clone and absolutely annihilate you, so watch out. So you really have to be mobile and on point if you're going to be surviving against an Ekko, because if you get hit by any of those, especially if you get hit by both, you're gonna have a hard time. When going in for the all-out kill, I mean, Ekko is gonna heavily rely on his W for the shield and or the stun. So not only if you can dodge the stun, that'll be good for you, but if you can also waste a bit of his time while he does have the shield from his W, that'll be even better. It's almost like attacking an Aurelia while she has her W active, dealing the true damage. I mean, really not the best circumstances of fighting against the champion. A lot of people also seem to be complaining of the fact that Ekko has really good escapes with his ultimate. Now, this is definitely true. He definitely has great escape with his ultimate, but if he uses it defensively just to save himself, that is a lot of his damage gone, that's a lot of utility from his kit gone, and his surprise assassin kind of factor of just coming back into the fight out of nowhere with his ultimate is also gone. So make sure you take advantage of the fact that you know that he has no surprising damage coming out and no escapes while his ultimate is down. The next tip is something that just applies to assassins in general. CC them down hardcore, because Ekko cannot use his ultimate while he's CC'd. As you're gonna see in this example right here, I just simply got bursted down and CC'd to where I couldn't do anything. And here's a pretty cool example as well of the Annie just showing how it's done facing an Ekko. She simply stuns me, uses all of her abilities, and you see her running around, not giving me any opportunity to stun her, to land my Q, and she simply just plays it right. Also, Ekko heavily relies on time management with his abilities. Don't give him that, no pun intended. What I mean by that is that a lot of the time, especially if I'm playing Ekko, what I'm going to be doing in a team fight is waiting for the right opportunity to strike, as any other assassin should. But while I'm waiting, I'm just going to be spamming my Q every few seconds on the enemy team, doing a lot of damage, slowing them down from my enemy team, and when the time is right, I will strike them. So when playing against him, you have to kill him as soon as possible and as fast as possible. Don't give him the opportunity. And the final thing, if you're under 30% HP, obviously you want to be careful, because not only is he going to burst you down with his ability kits plus his passive, but his W is also very strong at finishing off targets. So after some thinking, those are the general tips I have come up so far when playing against an Ekko. And I truly hope that these tips did help you. But next, let's go into the champions that you want to be picking against Ekko in the mid lane. So this is extremely important, because you don't want to pick a bad matchup against an assassin champion in the mid lane. The type of champions you should be looking for when picking one against Ekko mid lane are going to be ones that have either high mobility and or high burst damage, champions that can simply avoid the damage, or just strong laners that trade very well. So some examples of high mobility and high burst damage champions are Zed, LeBlanc, and Fizz. Champions that can avoid his damage also are Zed, LeBlanc, Fizz, but also Yasuo, since he can win wall his Q, which is huge in the laning phase, and Yasuo is very mobile with his E ability, being able to dodge his W and his ultimate. Or just playing overall strong, kind of beefy-ish champions in the mid lane that can trade very well. So for instance, a Victor or Cho'Gath. I mean, when I was talking to Bjergsen, he himself has said that he beat almost every Ekko mid lane playing either LeBlanc, Fizz, or Victor. But the champs you probably want to watch out for when picking against an Ekko, unless you really know what you're doing, are champions like Ziggs, Xerath, Cassiopeia, Orianna, Lux, and Syndra. All of these champions have skill shots that they rely on hitting, and Ekko can be very mobile to dodge him with his ultimate or his E ability, and they have no real escape against Ekko and his kit, because Ekko has a lot of stick potential with his kit that can be very annoying for those champions. And the last thing I'll talk about in this video is what I think needs nerfing on Ekko, because like I said, even though I don't think he's overpowered, I don't necessarily think he's balanced. I do think there are some tweaks that should be done to his kit to make him more balanced. So the main two things I will be talking about is going to be his passive and his Q. I think these are the main things that make Ekko very strong, because his passive damage is again not only very strong, especially when you combine it with his W passive, but the move speed is the main thing, because he can trade so well in the laning phase, do a lot of damage, and then with the move speed simply retreat or continue on with the chase. He has a little too many options in that scenario. And his Q has a little too much damage for how much he can spam it. The slow is very strong, and it applies 2 stacks of your passive, which if you just combine an E right after, you're gonna deal a lot of damage and very easily, especially when your Q is hitting 3 to 5 people in teamfights. I mean, chasing an Ekko with his Q ability makes it almost impossible. But those are the things that I think are a little too strong about Ekko, and I think should be toned down by just a bit. But that is it for this video, guys. I hope you have learned something new. If you did, please throw in a like. If you enjoyed it, also throw in a like, share it with your friends, tell me what you think about this video, and if you did learn anything new, or if it helped you face Ekkos. Also, check out my other videos as well if you did enjoy it, subscribe if you haven't, and I'll see you for the next one. Peace.